Hi, everybody. I'm Catherine Petrocelli for Sobi Poetry, Small Observances, Big Ideas. And in this video today, I just wanted to have you join me for a cuppa, whatever you'd like to be sipping on this day, wherever you are and whatever time of day it is. And I thought I would talk a little bit about process, my process personally, as it relates concretely to one particular poem of mine. And my hope in sharing this information is that you will be able, as creatives yourself, to kind of get a little backstage peek. Even if you're already writing and you've been writing for a while, or maybe you're just someone who reads poetry or wants to read poetry. I think everybody really loves to kind of pull the curtain back a little bit and see the gears going and kind of find out a little bit of the backstory of things. And everybody's unique, but I still feel that sharing our processes and kind of where poems come from and how we move through them and through the revision process to craft them, it can really help to know what others have done. It can give you permission for things. It can just kind of give you that light bulb moment sometimes, or just it's just an interesting curiosity. Whatever it is for you, welcome. Thanks for being here. So I'm going to talk about my poem, The Deer. And this poem was just recently published as in fall of October, actually, end of October 2023 in the About Place Journal. And it was a particular issue where the guest editors took on the non-human world. They really wanted to give voice to plants and animals in a sustaining, respectful way. And I will put a link in the comments here so that you can find all about that journal and the rest of the issue and the poem that I'm going to read you, and get a feel for what those editors were up to. But I'm just going to concentrate on this one poem of mine, The Deer, today. So the first thing I'm going to do is read you the poem. Makes sense, right? So here it is. Poetry is definitely an oral as well as a written art. The Deer, Point Lobos State Reserve. Through copse of pine, the deer and I watch, body of an otter, whiskered skiff skimming across surface below sea cliff. This edge of continent, where deer content themselves to wander toward waxy water, ears acting axis of alarm. Antlers are the fastest growing living tissue. Forked bone crowns, still velvet, are reinventing their reign as happens with each new year. The deer meet soft ground with careful hooves, as if mythologies piled on their backs, weightless. Enchanted princess, messengers of God's friend to saints. We go on populating our tales, something to kill, someone to do the killing. And what if these creatures before me now found, as I did, in the place just back 100 yards where the trees diffuse, the skeleton of a deer taken down by the mountain lion a season past? Nothing, not even the very bones of who we are, could change the rightness of this morning. So I'm going to put down my cuppa so I can talk to you a little bit about this poem. And I hope you have the text in front of you while I'm doing this. First of all, place is a large topic for me. It's something that comes up often whether I want it to or not. in my pieces. I'm very apt to describe natural landscape, to describe in detail a setting or surrounding of place. I grapple with themes like home and belonging, etc. Right? This is sort of one of the things I chew on as a poet. One of my obsessions. One of my kind of like little grains of sand rubbing over and over again to produce something. So in this poem, I name a very specific place, Point Lobos State Reserve. So that's what's in italics there under the title. And Point Lobos is in Monterey County, California, on the central coast of California. It's a very beautiful place. So the whole time I am writing this, and by the way, as I'm beginning to write this, what I'm doing is writing it out longhand in a journal. That's how I start everything. Probably doesn't have a title at this point. Would be very unlikely. But I have a cinematic picture of where this is going on. And I'm kind of holding that mental image very closely in my mind's eye as I'm writing, so that I can bring the reader there into an experience that is the poem, right? So it's about sharing it in detail enough that someone who hasn't been there can either imagine themselves there or imagine themselves to somewhere that they know that they have adapted to. Yeah, and so the first stanza, and this is really how this poem started. It started as an exercise in sound. So that first stanza, you'll notice, really plays a lot with assonance and alliteration, right? Assonance being when the vowel sounds inside the words often line up. So things like water and wax. Um, they have the matching W at the beginning, but they also have that same A sound going on within the word. And so there's lots of overlapping consonants, not just at the beginnings of words, right? Skiff and cliff and axis and wax and these kinds of things. I made a word list, as I often do. I don't remember anymore if I might have pulled some of these words from someone else's poem or from some text, which is not rarely the case. And so I just started to line things up like, oh, these sound cool together. Oh, these are a match in different ways. And I started to play, right? Right? If you're creating something, it should be fun. Okay, writing is hard work. It's very hard work. That's a topic for another conversation. But, play, make a study, just like a visual artist might make a study to try something out. I was kind of, experimenting a bit. Again, with kind of a particular image in my head as we went along. Um, and Yeah, the next thing I want to talk about is malleable truths. So poetry is a place of honesty. It's a place of truth. But that does not mean that you should always tell the exact truth as you remember the facts. So you want to be in service to the poem. And so if I look at my poem, The Deer, what are some things that I played with? Well, just like you might in a fiction tale make an amalgam of people to create a believable character, I made an amalgam of a scene. So I don't remember a specific day, for example, that I was watching, deer and otter. But there have been plenty of times when that could have happened. There have been plenty of times when I was in this spot and one or the other was there. Um, I create an alignment with the deer, right? We're watching together, right? I'm building something to create some sort of emotional truth. Um, and my other big reveal about this poem is that the skeleton of the deer was something that a friend found. I did not find it. Beware if you have writers in your life, your stories will be stolen. It's just as simple as that. Um, so it all kind of came together for me to be able to tell a particular truth, a particular story in this poem. Now, in the second stanza, this is a research stanza, if you will. Antlers are the fastest growing living tissue. That's a fact. That's a fact. When I understood that I was writing about deer, right, eventually, I started to do some, kind of basic research. Uh, and I wanted words, I wanted different ways to describe things. I am doing research to find the jargon around, like, what do you call, how do you describe an antler? Or, just even the fact of an antler, it really hadn't occurred to me. I think I was looking at does in my head. Um, so, uh, those antlers, that's just a scientific fact about them. And then the mythologies. This was also something that I researched. So I had, in the middle of writing this poem, a good long while where I am taking a good long or good wide space in my journal to kind of go over, like, oh, there's this myth and there's that myth, and does this make sense, and could I follow this as some lead? Will this give me some kind of insight or metaphor, or is this related to what I want to say? And so I have to go through quite a few before really what it ended up happening was I just took a couple phrases without explaining them out and made a list, right? Dear as messengers of gods, friends of saints, right? These are all things that I discovered in my research. Um, and then, there's always gifts that we can't explain when we start writing and things start clicking. So populating our tales, something to kill, someone to do the killing. This just arrived as that, and it's something that pulls back from the picture. Right now, the poet Lee Young Lee would say the poem lifts its head. Right, we're in this very specific setting and detail, and we're in this very real um, uh, description, but then we pull back and we have something else to say. So we move from concrete detail to concept or idea, something abstract to kind of chew on. Um, and then I ask this question, and I really want to stress this. I did not know the answer to this question when I asked it. What if these creatures before me now found as I did, in the place just back 100 yards where the trees diffuse? Right. So now I'm still working at the placement. I'm still working hard at the specific description. The skeleton of a deer taken down by a mountain lion, a season past. I'm asking this as a genuine question. I'm asking this as a human, not as a crafty poet. Um, and I don't know the answer, and I don't anticipate that my poem will find the answer necessarily. Um, but then, uh, I kind of move towards a bit of a soft close. So I don't want to tie things up neatly. I want to simply um, suggest something, leave the audience with an image, as much as I can, connect myself as a human with the animal of the deer, right? So it's the very bones of who we are. So now we have the bones of the deer on the page as well as the bones of the human. Um, and, it's important to note, I'm not thinking all of this out in a logical, linear way as I'm writing the poem. I am futzing around. That's what those research notes are about. I'm poking at vocabulary that sounds cool. And then I'm slowly printing out a typed version of the poem, reading through it, wondering about it, wondering what's still missing. Right, revision also a topic for another time. But I hope this gives a little bit of an idea around um, kind of how things come about and what considerations a poet might have in writing. It's not to say this is the way to do it. It's not to say this is an amazing poem. It's simply to um, to kind of share uh, what happens for me at pivotal points in getting this idea or this need to write. Sometimes there's not an idea at all, right? Jericho Brown, Pulitzer Prize winning poet, would say, don't ever start with an idea. Um, uh, but it's just how to move from nothing to something, and then something more, and then something more, and then something that might connect as a whole. So I hope that this has been interesting for you, perhaps, just to kind of, again, kind of get that backstage peek at one writer and one poem. And I'll try to do more of these videos along the way, and share different poems, share different techniques that I use or that I have learned through my writing, and see if any of them stick for you. If you're interested in being part of a poetry conversation, in doing some of your own writing live, I do live Zoom workshops with very small intimate groups, very supportive environment. And I'll be starting up my next workshop series the third week of January 2024. So you will find my email in the comments here. Please be in touch if you're interested in more information, and future videos will kind of hint at some more reveals around the themes for the workshop and the format. So everyone, be well. Cheers. I'm off. Until next time.